Hey, Dog Nation, one of my favorite times of the week as we get ready to get rolling here on Go with the Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. I like it because it's our chance to pick games of the week, give you our thoughts about how we think some of the big games will go from a point spread perspective, and, of course, inviting you to do the same thing with us on that there as well. Even though last week didn't go great for me, still a lot of fun to be able to do this. And if you're just joining us for the first time here for this episode, we'll give you an idea how it works. In just a moment, we're going to hear from the Dog Nation team of experts, in air quotes here, Mike Griffith, Connor Riley, Jeff Sintel. They will make their picks for the big games of the week, including Georgia at South Carolina against the spread. We'll hear from Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers on that as well. I'll make my picks too. And then after that, a consensus is formed. And we call that Going with the Flow, or Go with the Flow, the name of the show. And we'll invite Dari Pero from R.S. Andrews to then decide if he wants to go with the flow and join that consensus for the pick. And, of course, we invite you to play along at home as you're watching on all of this. Before we get going with this week's games and show you an update on the standings, let's say hello to Dari Pero, who actually joins us from a very picturesque locale, and we'll show you more of those standings in a moment here. Very picturesque locale for Dari Pero, enjoying a little vacation in the beautiful Canadian province of Alberta. Dari, I love to see you out there having a good time doing all of that, and certainly yeoman's work for you to join us for this show, despite the fact that you're on vacation. I'm sure your wife is very thrilled with us right now.
Oh yeah, it's we're in the Rockies, decided to get back to clearing the head in nature after a 3-3 week. I wasn't accepting it. I just had to get back in tune with the earth and get back on that winning streak.
I like that thought process. And by the way, speaking of the standings, let's take a look at those right now. After 2 weeks of action, everybody almost with a winning record so far on the year. Dari at 3-3 last week, 7-4 on the season. Connor Riley after 4-2 last week, he's also at 7-4. Myself, Mike Griffith, we're a game back at 6-5. And Jeff Sintel, a little bit of a pre-rally decline at 5-6 on the year as well. So that's where things stand as we get ready to make our picks for this week's games. And we always start with the Georgia Bulldogs, who go on the road on Saturday for the first time in SEC play this season, obviously for the first time in a hostile road environment there as well, as they take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Georgia 2-0 on the field, 1-1 against the spread. South Carolina 1-1 on the field, and also facing that same number against the number there as well. Mike, we'll start with you, where the point spread is a robust 24.5. How do you feel about Georgia on the road at South Carolina?
Well, I'm confident Georgia will win this football game. I mean, the Dogs have really played almost flawlessly in many respects. They haven't turned the ball over. They haven't really given up many big plays. I think the improved play of Stetson Bennett is pretty clear and obvious to everyone. I know the secondary is young and the linebackers are young, but they've been up to the challenge so far. I think South Carolina can test Georgia in some different ways with Rattler and a better receiving core. The noon kickoff, not ideal. Gamecocks at home, I mean, they got beat up pretty good by Arkansas, and I do think Georgia's going to be able to run the ball effectively. I think that's going to be the mode of attack. 24 is a lot of points on the road, man. I'm going to take South Carolina in 24.5. I expect Georgia to win, but that's just an awful big number on the road in an SEC opener.
No, I think that's fair. I think the half point looms very large here, too. 24, a key number. The half point on top of that, you're asking a lot from the favorite on the road in that spot. Jeff Sintel, how about you? Minus 24.5. You like the Dogs as the favorite?
Yeah, I do. I just seen South Carolina play through 2 games, and one thing that I don't know they do very well is I don't think they protect the passer very well. I don't think they're very good up front, and that's what Georgia is excellent at. I think the line is 24.5. I'm not scared of that hook. I'm not scared of that teaser. I will lay the points. I think Georgia will cover the 24, and they will look very sporty doing it.
Dueling stadium shots from our two scribes there. Mike's is empty. Jeff's is full. I don't know what that means about anything, but interesting to see the backgrounds there for both Mike and Jeff. Connor, I'm assuming Son stadium background. How do you feel about Georgia minus 24? Actually, he has a stadium. He has a stadium framed on the back of his wall there. So maybe Dari and I are the only ones who don't have that shot. How do you feel about Georgia minus 24.5?
I like Georgia here. If they played better last week, I think I would lean more a little towards South Carolina here. But I think this team's going to be eager to go out on the road the first time and prove that this is an elite team that, and Jeff made the really good point. This is a South Carolina team that is not good on either side of the line of scrimmage there. And I think because of that, this is going to be a game that Georgia's really able to lean on them, wear them down over the course of the game. Weather's not supposed to be too bad in South Carolina on Saturday. And so because of that, I like Georgia to win and cover the 24.5 point spread.
Dog Nation daily listeners and viewers agree to the tune of 96% on Georgia covering the 24.5. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have a great deal of confidence in my pick on this. As I said a moment ago, I think the half point here makes this very big. I think there's a lot of games you can bet. I'm going to give you some games later on that I think are more comfortable betting options. I don't know how comfortable I feel about this, but I am going to take Georgia. First of all, the Action Network tracks spread bets, 74% of the action coming in on UGA thus far. And ultimately, the thing that causes me to pull the trigger on Georgia for this a pick, if not quite for a bet, is the fact that if you go back and look at the last 7 instances in which Georgia has been a road favorite of 20 or more points, they've actually covered in 6 of those 7 instances, which is, I think, a pretty substantial number here and far better for Georgia on the road as a big favorite than they've seen at home. Facing a similar level of point spread, Georgia plays pretty comfortable in this spot on the road. The thing that would give me some trepidation is Georgia's a pretty easy rubber stamp as an under, and covering a big 24.5 point number for a game that stays under the total, that's not always an easy thing to do. But you can't deny the success of the Dogs as a 20-plus point favorite on the road. So I'm going to take Georgia here minus the 24.5. It would certainly not be a big bet for me, if a bet at all, but it is a pick for our game here. And, Dari, that puts the flow on the side of UGA. You want to go with the flow and take Georgia minus 24.5.
No, it's too many points for me. I'm gonna take the points here in South Carolina. I just think it's going to be a slow-moving game that Georgia just leans on them. They grind it. They may have a big play here or there, but I like the under in the game. I think South Carolina is probably going to do enough to cover that number.
Yeah, I think if you're betting anything, I think the under may be the safest overall bet just because so many Georgia games have gone under the total here. But for the purpose of our pick, Dari going against the grain there and taking South Carolina. Let's turn our attention to another high-profile game in the SEC. It takes place in College Station, which was a house of horrors for the Aggies last Saturday in being upset by Appalachian State and performing terribly offensively in the process to a Appalachian State team that couldn't stop North Carolina and its quarterback Drake May at all prior to that, speaking to a lot of issues here for Jimbo Fisher that money can't necessarily solve, obviously after the number 1 recruiting class that was rumored to be connected to a big NIL payment. Well, that money not really paying dividends for the Aggies on the field last Saturday against Appalachian State, but they do find themselves as a favorite in this spot against Miami, another NIL darling. And the number here is at 5, and if anything, the number's going up. By the time you hear the show, you may see it at 5.5 or 6. But for now, we're going with A&M as a 5-point favorite against Miami here in what was supposed to be the biggest, most high-profile game of the weekend. But obviously that changed because of the A&M loss last week. So, Mike, that's the story from College Station. Aggies find themselves as a 5-point favorite. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, this is an interesting game for sure. Texas A&M in a position where they really need to bounce back. I think they will. I'm stunned and shocked by last week's result. I think this could trigger a quarterback change, and sometimes when you make changes like that, I think it can provide a lift, and I think that there's a lot of pride on the line. So I'm going to take Texas A&M and lay the points.
So there you go, Mike Griffith on the side of A&M in a bounce-back game. Jeff Sintel, how about you? The number here is 5.
Yeah, guys, I think with this one, it's kind of funny. There's a joke here that I guess the winner gets an extra $4 million in NIL. Excuse me, the loser gets an extra $4 million in NIL money added to the coffers for their next recruiting class because they're going to need it. I just think Texas A&M is a little bit in turmoil right now, and the 5.5 points, I think Miami's going to win this outright. I think Miami's going to win this game by about 7 points. Just seeing the way these two teams have played so far, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better in Aggie Town.
So that is Jeff Sintel weighing in on that split decision here thus far. Connor, will come to you to break the tie.
Yeah, I think even, before last week, there were questions about this Texas A&M offense, and I don't know what we've seen out of Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher to have, the idea that a quarterback change is going to drastically change the outcome of this offense here. And I think both these coaches tend to be a little bit more conservative in how they call games and how games are played. I think it's going to be a low scoring affair. And so I like the under here. And because of that, give me the underdog, Miami. I kind of like them to win outright as well, as Mr. Sintel said. And I'll take the over on the people saying that the U is back after this week after they beat Texas A&M.
There you go. 81% of Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers also on the side of Miami here in this spot. And this is another instance in which I don't have a lot of confidence in my pick because every fiber of my being in situations like this loves being contrarian. If you look at the Action Network, they've got 75% of spread bets right now on Miami. And why would you not, given the way the Texas A&M played last week? Aggies haven't been great at home either. Just 6-6 in their last 12 as a home favorite against the spread. So you can't necessarily lean on the Kyle Field home field advantage on all of this. And Connor mentioned the over-under total. Did you know the total in this game is set at just 45 right now? So this is expected to be a very low-scoring game. Here's the thing, though. And I've been a guy that's sort of vouched for Jimbo Fisher and certainly touted him as a good coach. I can't do it right now. I can't. What I've seen through 2 games from them this year is really pretty troubling. And I sort of agree with Connor that there's a reason Max Johnson didn't win the starting job to begin with, that apparently he's not better than Haynes King is. And this is an Aggies team right now that's going to have a hard time scoring points. I would say to that there as well. Look at Mike Elko, the former DC, now at Duke. They're 2-0. I think eventually Texas A&M might start to miss him on defense, especially when you get into conference play. But against Miami on Saturday, this Aggie situation just looks like a little bit of a leaky vessel right now. So against my better judgment for someone who likes to be contrarian, I'm going to go against them and take Miami plus the 5 points here. Dari, that puts the flow on the side of Miami. This may be the squarest pick ever, just given the fact that the entire public seems to be lined up in the same direction. But who wants a piece of A&M right now? So do you want to go with the flow and take Miami?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Canes and the points. I think the Aggies will bounce back in this game. I think they're going to have some fight. I think they're going to show it after that upset. I think this is going to be a really close game because I do think they're going to be fired up. But their offense is just so bad right now. And I really like Miami. Miami's kind of clicking on both sides of the ball. I think it's going to be a very close game. I could see Miami winning the game, but I'll just take the points here just because I think it's going to be a dogfight. And, if they do lose, it's going to get really bad for Jimbo really quick.
No, I think you're exactly right about that. Turning our attention to another battle of an SEC team taking on a Power 5 non-conference foe. Auburn hosts Penn State on Saturday after Auburn traveled to Happy Valley last year and lost in the famous whiteout game. Looks like the Tigers might be trying to turn the tables here this Saturday. All kinds of rumors coming out of the Plains that Auburn may have an orange out and wear orange uniforms for the first time since, I believe, 1978 there on that. Auburn, no matter what color uniform they were wearing, struggled a little bit last week in a win against San Jose State. The last time we saw Penn State in a game of note back during week 0, taking care of Purdue in a road battle there. The Nittany Lions getting that win. So they travel to Auburn on Saturday as a favorite. Auburn getting 3 points at home. Something you don't often see there at Jordan-Hare Stadium. So it's Tigers plus 3. That's the number we're going with from our friends at MyBookie. Mike Griffith, what do you think about Penn State on the road in the SEC?
Yeah, this is an interesting game. I don't know that I'm all in on Brian Harsin, but a 3-point underdog at Jordan-Hare Stadium in a non-conference game, you got to give me some of that. I just feel like, having covered that beat and knowing that culture, this is going to be a great environment. It's going to be a great football environment. I think the Auburn players feed off of that. I think it matters some places more than others. I think this is going to be very unique to Penn State. And so I'm going to take Auburn in the points against the Nittany Lions.
All right, there you go on that. Jeff Sintel, how about you? Auburn plus 3 here against Penn State.
Yeah, this is going to be a great environment. I totally agree with that. And it gets a little tricky when you see Vegas is giving Auburn points as a home team. That tells you those casino makers and lights operators know something. Here's the thing. Auburn played with its food way too much with San Jose State for my liking. They don't really have an entrenched starter at quarterback, or at least an established starter. You look over at Penn State, I think Sean Clifford has been starting. This will be his 4th year. Probably got 60, 70 career touchdown passes, I believe. More experienced starter, low-scoring game. Auburn's really not played anybody yet. You can't say a whole lot of that for Penn State, although they have faced better opposition. I think Penn State's going to win this game. The 3 points you're laying to the home team does not bother me at all. Give me Penn State here.
Connor, how about you? The number is 3 for Auburn hosting Penn State.
Yeah, I give me Penn State here. With the game being a 3-point line, I mean, I'd love it if it were 2.5 here, but it's close enough. I don't know if Auburn can win this game outright.
Yeah.
As Jeff mentioned, they have some issues at quarterback there between Robbie Ashford and TJ Finley. I think this Penn State on composite either is incredibly close or might even have more talent than Penn State there, or than Auburn there. And so because of that, I think this is a Penn State team. While, yes, Auburn is certainly going to be a unique environment, this team has played in Columbus. This team has played in Ann Arbor. They've played at Mike's alma mater, Michigan State. This is going to be a team that has seen some big-time road environments, and because of that, I think they're going to be able to go in there and handle it pretty well. So give me Penn State here minus the 3 points.
61% of Dog Nation daily listeners and viewers agree, taking Penn State here in this spot. And to speak to the point that Connor was making about Nittany Lions on the road, this matters to me. In the last 8 road games they played, they're 6-2 against the spread, including covering as a 3.5-point favorite against Purdue to begin the season back in week 0 in a game that really no one was taking them to cover there. They drove down the field and did just that. You don't have a crazy level of public backing on Penn State right now, just 52% of the spread bets according to the Action Network. But I got to tell you, of all the games we're going to pick here this weekend, of the official 5 picks that we're all making together, this is the one I feel the strongest about. I think there's a chance that Auburn's terrible. And I know I'm a Georgia fan. People sort of think I'm just saying this because I don't like, Auburn, one of Georgia's hated rivals. The truth is I take my picks pretty seriously. I don't want to get them wrong. And as objectively as I know how to be, I think there's a chance that we're looking at one of the worst teams in the SEC for the reasons I believe that Jeff brought up. This is really quarterback by default right now. Zach Calzada was brought over from Texas A&M to win the job, and he failed to do so. TJ Finley was not impressive against San Jose State. What little we've seen of Robbie Ashford hasn't been very impressive either. And if you don't have a quarterback, when you don't have a lot of other things in the roster there as well, this is a team that I think is going to lose plenty. I think that continues here on Saturday. Frankly, I don't care what color uniforms Auburn's wearing. When the game is over, I'm going to be asking you, aren't you glad you took the Nittany Lions? So, Dar, do you want to go with the flow and join the rest of us in taking Penn State here, or at least those of us who have?
I'm not. I'm going to take a stab with Auburn at home. I think everyone, when you look at this, it's going to be like, oh, that's an easy pick. Penn State, yeah, they're better. It looks like they're a better team. Auburn looks like they're in disarray. But they still got talent on defense. They got a lot of heart at home. I think it's going to be a crazy game. There's going to be some turnovers. They're going to make some plays. It's going to be tight. Don't know if Auburn wins the game, but I think getting 3 points at home, they're going to do it. One of the stats that I saw out there is Penn State is 1-6 against the spread against their last 7 games against SEC teams.
Okay.
That's enough for me to take a stab with Auburn getting points at home.
That's a good number. By the way, our producer, Michael Carvel, points out a good point. So we've seen you sometimes kind of pop the beverage during the show. I asked you about this last week, and you said, hey, I can't do that every single week. You got to save that for the big games. Well, this is a slightly bigger game for Georgia. They are in SEC play on Saturday, but if nothing else, Dari, you're on vacation. You're not popping a Molson, not to give free plug away, but some sort of Canadian-style beverage. You're not popping something like that while on vacation up there in the gorgeous Canadian province of Alberta?
Oh, yeah. There'll be a lot of that done here this afternoon. Today, I kind of slotted most of the day to get some work done, so it's kind of a work day for me.
I see.
But as soon as I get done with that, I'll be popping plenty of brewskis up here.
Well, speaking of work day, it's also a work day in the SEC for a couple of SEC West foes. We'll do head-to-head battle as LSU hosts Mississippi State. Rare spot for the Fighting Tigers, who find themselves a point spread underdog at home by 2 points. Of course, LSU all over in-state foe Southern last week after the embarrassing conclusion to their loss on Sunday prior to Labor Day to Florida State there in New Orleans. So they'll stay in the state of Louisiana again as Mississippi State travels in. Bulldogs, a better win than you might realize last Saturday on the road at Arizona. This is a much improved Wildcats team, but very late in the night last week, Mississippi State took care of business and found themselves as a point spread favorite against their division rivals here on Saturday. So, Mike, what do you think about Mississippi State -2 at LSU?
Yeah, Will Rogers has been the best quarterback in the SEC statistically, leading the league in yards, completion percentage, and passing touchdowns. And I think I think Mississippi State's played some people. I was really bullish on LSU. I still think Brian Kelly's a great football coach. I think by the end of the year they'll be great. But right now, I think Mississippi State is really rolling. It's a unique environment. Tiger Stadium is worth some points. They like to shut down the electricity at team hotels and things like that. We've seen that happen a couple times, once to Georgia in the last 5 years. I'm still going to take Mississippi State, though. It goes against the grain of home underdogs and LSU mystique and everything I think about Brian Kelly as a great coach. I just think Mississippi State is a really good football team right now.
So that's Mike's pick on Mississippi State, and I can't deny that I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen from the Bulldogs here thus far. Jeff, what do you think Mississippi State on the road giving to LSU?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I'm gonna get on thin ice here with my picks this week by picking against two straight SEC home underdogs. But I just see a little bit more. I see Brian Kelly building versus a little bit more establishment. I see Will Rogers as the more entrenched, successful operating quarterback. And I think I guess I am entranced by what Mississippi State was able to do late last week on the road, late game, and beat an Arizona team. They did have some talent. I'm going to go with Mississippi State here in Death Valley. Every bleeding instinct I have about SEC home underdogs goes against it. But give me Mississippi State here and Mike Leach to have two very cool quips after the game in his post-game interview.
So a little bit of love for the Bulldogs here thus far. Connor, how do you feel about that?
Nope. I'm going to take LSU as a home underdog here. I was leaning Mississippi State, but with Griff and Jeff both taking the Bulldogs here, I've decided this is a time to zag here. I think this LSU team, with all the transfers that they brought in, I think they're going to get better over the course of the season, and I think this is going to be an improved team that you saw from week one. I think they're going to, find a way to start getting the ball to Keyshawn Boutte. I am a little worried that they don't have Mason Smith in this game. That's a significant loss for LSU there on their defensive line, but they have enough other talented players, specifically B.J. Ojulari, Ali Gay, who can rush from the outside and I think can make an impact there. And obviously, I think this team knows better than anyone, hey, this is just a team you can't play man against. And so I think because of that, the depth that they have in the secondary, they're going to be okay on the defensive side of the ball. So give me LSU here. I don't feel necessarily great about it, but they're a home dog. And, other than playing Alabama, I can't remember the last time LSU was a home dog to an SEC foe. So I'll take those 3 points here.
Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers on the side of LSU to the tune of 58% here. And I'm going to go Mississippi State. And I got to be honest with you, this is another example, a little bit like my pick on Miami, where I feel like I'm going against the grain of what I would typically make as kind of contrarian play here. But the truth is, I was way too cute with my picks last week, so I'm trying to keep it a little bit more simple here this week. And I think, simply speaking, this is good team versus bad team right now. I think Mississippi State is a good team right now, and I'm not quite so sure LSU is. LSU historically is kind of power rated in the top 10 by almost everyone, like sort of the Vegas ratings and things like that. But that's not quite the case here this year. This is not the only time that LSU is going to be a point spread underdog at home here this season, regardless of what their end-of-year record ends up being. They've got Tennessee coming in. Tennessee will be a point spread favorite too, for instance. So we're going to see LSU be an underdog at home probably a few more times before the year is done. And here's something that kind of matters to me. Mississippi State in its last 9 games, 7-2 against the spread. So Mike Leach, who I don't really love as a coach, I won't pretend that I do, has kind of found something as of late for these Bulldogs. And right now, I believe through 2 games, they just look better than LSU does. So, given that as the scenario, 2 doesn't feel like a ton. There's not a huge public backing on LSU in this game. Just 52% of spread bets according to the Action Network. So you feel somewhat safe in going on the other side. It doesn't feel too squarish. So the bottom line for me is I got Mississippi State -2 on the road. That puts the flow on the side of the Maroon. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take Kalanga here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bulldogs. Even though LSU's tough to beat at home, home dogs, rare. They do get a lot of guys back that were academically ineligible from last year and into this year. But I still think they still have maybe a dozen so that still aren't playing because of that. So I just think Mississippi State's a well-balanced team. Will Rogers is on fire right now. Completion percentage is almost 80%. I think that's enough to get a win here. And I'd love to see Brian Kelly get another early loss here and really squirm at that podium.
I'm right there with you on that, Dari. That's good stuff. Only game involving top 25 competition outside the SEC this week takes us all the way out west to Eugene, Oregon. Of course, we all saw Oregon week 1 getting blown out by Georgia. Ducks did bounce back last week against no-name competition. And on the other side, an impressive start to the year for BYU. Thrilling win last Saturday, very late against Baylor, and the Cougars missing 2 top wide receivers there in that game, getting a win against a team that started the year ranked in the preseason top 10. So it's BYU going to Eugene to take on Oregon. Ducks find themselves as a 3.5-point favorite, maybe a little bit of a contrarian line there. Mike Griffith, I'll start with you. BYU at Oregon. How you feel about the Cougars and the Ducks?
Yeah, the Ducks were my best bet last week, and they covered easily. 20-point favorite. I think they won by almost 50. And I'm going to stick with Dan Lanning on this one. I know BYU had a very impressive win against Baylor, emotional win. But I think Dan Lanning knows how to take care of business. I think Oregon is, as I said, I think they're a good football program, and they're at home. So give me the Ducks, and I'm going to lay the points to BYU.
So there you go. Mike on the side of Oregon for a second consecutive week after a best bet win on the Ducks last week. Jeff, how about you? 3.5 there in Eugene for Oregon against BYU.
Yeah, this is another top 25 matchup, guys, if I'm right. I think this is 12 versus 25. And, man, we saw what BYU did last week. They went and beat a top 10 team in Baylor, and that was mighty impressive. I just keep going through my mind about this game, and I'm saying what's different? What's going to make Oregon different? And I think playing a team like Georgia is going to make them different. I think the first-round talent they have at linebacker is going to make them different. I think being at home is going to make them different. And maybe the word I keep saying is not different, but better here. And I think Oregon's going to be better. A little bit of Bo Nix, a little bit of those linebackers, a little bit of home stadium, a little bit of they need a really big win. And I think all those reasons give me the play here. I think the Ducks are going to do the duck hunting on Saturday. Give me the Fighting Dan Lannings here in this one.
A lot of Oregon so far. Connor, how about you? BYU and Oregon.
Nope, give me the Cougs here. They're the adults in the room. They've played big-time games because of their schedule before, and because of that, I think they're not going to be afraid going into Autzen Stadium. I believe this team was 5-0 against Pac-12 foes last season.
They were.
I think BYU is going to keep that up. They're ready to play. They're ready to go, and they're going to go in not only in cover against Oregon, I think they're going to win outright.
Yeah, Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers on the side of Oregon, I guess maybe that's a emotional hedge or something like that after Georgia played the Ducks to begin the year, but 52% on the side of the Ducks here. Here's the thing. BYU is not a group of 5 team. Technically speaking, they would be listed as an FBS independent. But I do believe BYU through 2 weeks is dropping some hints. They may be the best non-Power 5 team in the country. And after having beaten Baylor last week, if they were to go on the road and win in Oregon, I think you're looking at a BYU team from a resume case that can make a claim to being better this year than Cincinnati was a year ago in terms of the kinds of wins that it's putting together. I think that BYU is very, very good. I actually agree with Connor. Not only do I like them minus the points here, or should say plus the points, I sort of like them to win the game outright. 76% of spread bets in this game on BYU, so that could be an overreaction to what folks saw from Oregon against Georgia, or it could be a realization of what I'm describing here right there. Ducks have not been great at home. They have covered 3 straight, but they failed to cover in the 6 straight games prior to that. So just 3-6 in their last 9 home games when it comes to the spread number on that. Dari, I like BYU a pretty good bit here in this game. The flow, though, on the side of Oregon, you want to go with the flow and take Oregon.
No, I'm a roll with BYU in this one. Oregon's been really good at home. the past several years straight up, with wins. It's a tough place to go pick up a win. But this BYU team's on a special run. They're 23-4 in their last 27 games. They've won 7 out of their last 11 games against ranked opponents. And in this run, they're also 9. They've won 9 of their last 11 against Power 5 teams. This team is good. It carried over from last year to this year. They are building. They got talent all over this team. They are really strong in the trenches. They do not give an inch. They fight hard. I think the special continues this weekend. I think they can get an outright win on the road at Oregon.
Yeah, I think the BYU is definitely worth your attention. They could earn more attention for themselves based on the way they play at Oregon coming up this weekend. We turn our attention now to our best bets, where we get a chance to look at the entire board as posted there at MyBookie for your chance to pick whatever game you want to pick. As Mike Griffith said, last week he was on Oregon, and he was a rocking chair cover in that game where they lit up the scoreboard in a mighty way. So, Mike, you're a little bit hot when it comes to your best bet. How about for this week? You got the entire board at your disposal. Who do you want?
Yeah, I'm going to try to stay hot, and the best place to do that is Tucson, Arizona, where Arizona is a 1-point underdog to North Dakota State at home. I know they lost a tough game to Mississippi State, but I think sometimes when you play a quality opponent like that, I think everybody just kind of tightens the chin straps up a little bit more. It raises your level of play, and therefore I think the Wildcats are going to be laying in wait for a very good North Dakota State team, but one that may be a little uncomfortable or unfamiliar with the Southwestern Desert area. So I'm going to take Arizona State and 1 point at home against North Dakota State.
Oh, there you go on that. A little bit of an FBS versus FCS battle. Matt, Jeff, how about you? Your pick here, best bet across the board.
Well, one thing I learned the first 2 weeks is I'm going to stop picking games that involve KSU teams. I missed on Kennesaw State week 1. I missed on Kansas State, Missouri week 2. And, folks, I have the juiciest piece of tomahawk American beef. This is my best bet. It's supposed to be my best bet. But last week after our show, we established that some prop bets were in play. We established that you find a juicy prop, you can go for it. I just found one. Ladd McConkey receiving yards in the South Carolina game, 46 yards. A.D. Mitchell's not playing. Stetson Bennett's probably going to throw for another 315 yards. Give me Ladd McConkey going over 46.5 yards receiving against the Gamecocks. Feel pretty sporty about that one.
So there you go. Jeff taking a player prop, and hopefully that's a real number, but taking a player prop there on that, which I don't mind at all. I don't know if we lost Connor. I know there was a little bit of breaking news here. Is Connor still there to make his best bet? Yeah, he's still there.
Oh, come on. I mean, look, I'm giving out 2 winners here in this best bet segment. You think I'm going to rob these people of these picks here? Absolutely not. I wanted to go against Georgia Tech here, 16.5 for Ole Miss. I kind of like that. That's a play that's involved. UTSA 12.5 against Texas. You worry a little bit about the letdown factor, especially how healthy is quarterback Hudson Card there. But the game that I like the most this week, and it's partially number based, USC minus 13 against Fresno State. You're going to have to stay up there a little bit out there on the West Coast, but I like this USC team. I like what I've seen out of them so far. I think this offense can be explosive. They're 2-0 against the spread in their first 2 games. So give me USC here, minus 13. That's a key number there. I love them at that spot. Give me USC minus 13 against the Fresno State Bulldogs.
Strong play from Connor on that. One of the games he mentioned I have written down there as well. Let me just say this real quick. I don't mind telling you this. I'm 0-2 in my best bets thus far this year. I took a humiliatingly bad beat against App State, North Carolina, week 1. Last week, though, no excuse for this. Just totally misread the situation with Syracuse. I actually have an apology issue to Syracuse, who went on the road, handled its business against UConn, and now finds himself in sort of a pick-em situation against Purdue. I think Syracuse might be worth a look right there, but that's not one of my picks. I'm going to give you 3 real quick. And one of those is one of the ones that Connor mentioned. I do think the Roadrunners of Texas San Antonio getting 12.5 at Texas here this week. Texas, like Texas would do, is absolutely patting themselves on the back in a very big way for playing it close against Alabama last week. Eerily reminiscent of what Florida did a year ago. We saw what happened to the Gators season after that. I think Texas is sort of ripe to maybe not lose outright to UTSA, although keep your eyes on it because that's not a terrible football team, to be completely honest with you. Not a bad team at all. But 12.5 is a lot there. I'll take the Roadrunners plus 12.5. Also, quickly, I'll take Kansas plus 10 at Houston. Lance Leipold is a good coach, and Kansas is not the worst team in the Big 12 right now. Obviously, winning in overtime at West Virginia last week, becoming the first team in however many years to win an overtime game by 13 points. But they're pretty good right now, and they're taking on a Houston team that's played 2 overtime games to begin the year. I like Jayhawks plus 10 right there. Kansas is way better right now than you realize. But the game I probably like most of all, although they're all three going to be picks, the best group of 5 team, now that's not what BYU is because they're not group of 5, they're FBS independent. The best group of 5 team this year might be Air Force. They absolutely walloped Colorado last week. They're at Wyoming this week. Wyoming's 2-1, but honestly, I saw them week 0 against Illinois. I think they're pretty terrible. Air Force is a 14.5 point favorite on the road. They were a big favorite at Colorado last week and just absolutely roller skated to an easy win. I like Air Force minus 14.5, Kansas plus 10, UTSA plus 12.5. I got 3 best bets. I think I'm going to sweep them all. Dari, how about for you?
Well, I actually turned you on to Air Force last week.
Oh, I was on them before. I was on them way before you.
I hit it with ECU as my main pick, but I really did like Air Force. I've had my eye on them all week. I actually love them this week at Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Same reason. I mean, they've been crushing teams with the running game. They're almost over 1,000 yards rushing on the season, averaging almost 8.5 yards per carry. Wyoming's been giving up about 6.5 yards per carry, and they haven't faced any kind of running game like this.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Dari.
Air Force to steamroll.
I'll tell you right now. I'll let you make your picks. I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I think this will be the first Service Academy to make a New Year's Six bowl. I'm gonna call it right now.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
that'd actually be pretty cool. But yeah, Air Force is my bonus pick this week.
Perfect. Who else did you give us?
That's it. That's the game I like. That's the one I was have my eye on.
Well, there you go. So a lot of love for the Falcons here going up to Laramie there on Saturday. And, of course, for all of your picks, good luck with those. Don't forget the spreads we use here come from our friends at MyBookie. And if you want to make your bets here, you can do that. Go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code DogNation, and get that big deposit bonus from our friends there. You put in $250, they're going to give you $250. You essentially double your account before you even win your first bet. That's with our friends at MyBookie, so find them online at mybookie.ag for all that. But also, the great company that brings Go With The Flow to you, our friends at R.S. Andrews. We know that the Dari Payro is great at making his picks here on the show each and every week, but the thing that the folks at R.S. Andrews are really known for is taking care of you when it comes to your air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electric needs. They show up on time. They do the work that's promised, the price that's promised. That means if your water heater goes out, for instance, they can replace it for you in many cases the same day. Or maybe you just need like a water heater rejuvenation. You just need kind of some new life breathing in that unit. They can do that for you there too. They want to help you take care of all of those kinds of things. Still AC units, obviously, got to have those. It's still going to be really warm here moving through the month of September. R.S. Andrews can get your air conditioning unit tuned back up to factory fresh specs for you as well. So find them online at rsandrews.com for a lot more on that. And for all of you who join us each week here on Friday nights for Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews, we appreciate that. Hope you enjoy making your picks right there alongside us and laughing at me when I get mine wrong. But we'll come back and do it all over again next week there as well. So good luck to all of you on your own picks, and we'll see you again.